Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Brix Lucas. Today I'll be reviewing the 2016 set, the Droid Escape Pod, which came out in 2016 as I said. It retailed for $25. I actually got this unopened. I bought it for $20, so even cheaper than it was at retail when it came out. I really like the box art. I like the box art on the front with the droids escaping from the Jawas trying to capture them. There's a sand crawler up in the corner. The back, unfortunately, is covered by some stickers, but I do like this blueprint they included up here of the escape pod. That's not something I see Lego do nowadays, really. It's cool to see the old retro style, if you could call it that. It is about 5 years old now at this point. So let's hop right into this review, starting with the minifigures. First up, we have C-3PO. Classic figure. And this is actually the first time that this version of C-3PO was in a set. There is some great leg printing there, very detailed chest printing. I like the head mold with his, I know that that's been on previous versions, but still worthy of note. I like all the details there. It's kind of weird to me that his eyes aren't in the center, and that's happened to me on other C-3POs. I don't know if this is intentional, but it seems to be always like a random placement. Got some back printing as well with the wiring, and it's always good to have a C-3PO around too. I mean, especially if you didn't have one before, but he's just such an iconic figure. He's easy to use and plenty of mocks and things. Next up, we have C-3PO's best friend, whether he'd admit it or not, R2-D2. And if I'm not mistaken on this one, this was the first time this R2-D2, this exact print and everything was released. Hadn't been released before. Yeah, pretty standard R2-D2. They do a very good job with those. Next up is the Jawa. Black head with yellow eyes underneath the hood. I've always liked that design for the Jawa. It makes me wonder what their faces look like. Good chest print there with some bags strapped across. Same thing with his buddy, not much to report here either. They did a decent enough job. I do think it's interesting how they each have different blasters though. Other than C-3PO's strange eye placement, I don't really have much negative to say about these figures, but there's also not a whole lot that necessarily excites me. I like that they included 2 Jawas. Lego tends to skimp out on the amount of minifigures they include in their sets, so I'm happy to see that. But like I said, not much is really exciting me here. There's not like that figure that just like, oh man, I love this thing. You're like a must-have. But overall, it was a good enough job. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6 out of 10, especially because they included 4 minifigures in this size of a set. Next up is the build itself. So this is the escape pod here. We've got your engines on the back. I really like this viewing hole in the front. It's hard to see in this light, but you can actually see through to the inside there. And if this is out of the way, vice versa. So this is a pretty cool feature there. Speaking of this, these are the Death Star plans that you can remove. I thought that was a pretty neat idea. There's obviously no physical Death Star plans like that shown in the film, but cool play feature for kids. Here's a nice control panel screen. This is a cool sticker. It shows the escape pod landing on Tatooine, and this is my favorite sticker of the piece, and one of my favorite features actually. It's the viewing hole showing the Imperial Star Destroyer they just launched away from. I really like when Lego includes things like that. Those stickers don't really bother me. These ones on the outside though, this whole thing is just stickers. And I think I did a pretty decent job lining it up pretty well. It was one of those times where I put the sticker on, had to pull it off, put it back on, wasn't on as well as I would have liked, so I had to pull it off again on each one. So it was kind of obnoxious having to do that with these. I really wish that they could have just had some printed pieces here. But you can fit both R2-D2 and C-3PO in. It is quite a snug fit, but they both fit in all right, and I do really like that they each have their own specified seating area. It took me a little less than 20 minutes to build. And a good chunk of that was just putting on the stickers. So there's actually not a lot here for the $25 price tag that it was originally retailed for. I'm gonna give the build a 6 out of 10. Next up, we have the displayability. I mean, that's it. That's what it's gonna look like on a shelf right there. I don't really get a whole lot out of that. I mean, I think you might have some people who instantly recognize that as the escape pod. You could always display it like this with it being half open, kind of like with a chunk taken out to show R2 and C-3PO in there. But overall, not an overly displayable ship. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Next up, we have playability, and I actually think that this has a decent amount of play features for the build here. I mean, as I showed you earlier, you can have the Death Star plans. There's a couple antagonists here for our 2 robotic heroes. Easy to fly this thing around and crash it right there into the same. So for how small a build this is, I'm gonna give that a 7 out of 10 for playability. So next up is value. I really don't think there's a whole lot there for $25. I could see this pushing to be a $20 set. It is at just about 8 cents per piece, which is actually fairly low. But for some reason, I feel like I should have gotten more out of a $25 set. It just looks rather small. Perhaps that's just an optical illusion because there's so much squeezed in there. But that's just how I feel after building the set in its entirety. Although I don't think that they skimped out on the minifigures, as I said earlier. I mean, I could see this being pushed to like a $20 set, but $25 just, it seems a little bit over the mark for me. So I'm gonna give the value a 6 out of 10. So if I add up all the points here, the Droid Escape Pod is going to get a 60% score from me. Well guys, thanks for watching my retro review of the Droid Escape Pod. I'm hoping to collect more sets from this era, so please make sure to like and subscribe to stay tuned for more.